Hello everyone, and welcome to Chapter 4 of my 0% low turn count playthrough of a Vestrian Tale. And I have some bad news for everyone. The last heist didn't exactly go according to plan, and now the crew is stuck in gamer prison. And not just that, but Zeke's crimes against the turn count were considered so egregious that he is actually in the maximum security cell of gamer prison. We'll need to pull off a few tricks to free him, but pull them off we shall. This is the second and final escape map of the Vestrian Tale, and I consider it kind of the send-off of the early game. My menuing in the prep section is a little bit sloppy, which is unfortunate, but it does give me time to address a change that happened between the last recording and this one. It was perhaps a bit of foreshadowing that I said in Chapter 3. I wish I had more things to buy in the shops there, because it turns out I did have quite a few more things to buy. In addition to the items I bought last chapter, I also needed to get a men's staff and a second pure water. I did have the money for that after selling a couple steel weapons and a bunch of vulneraries, but you're going to see both of those items in this clear. And you're also going to see quite a few new faces. These past couple clears have been going by pretty quickly, so I haven't had the time to introduce a lot of key players in this clear beforehand, so I'm going to spend the first couple turns introducing them, starting with the most broken one, Alva. She has reposition, apparently. She's crazy. The unit she repositioned is Yehoshua, the Sage. He has really good staff rank and pretty good combat, solid speed, and with a good tome like the Thunder Tome, pretty solid attack. He's going to be instrumental in the little squad heading off to the right there. That may perplex you, as I am sending most of my units north, and the escape point is in the top section of the map, but the trick to Zeke's maximum security cell is that there are two yellow buttons on the map that we need to press. There's one in the bottom right and one in the top left. And so my two best combat units are going to head to the right to get that first button. And in doing so, they become quote-unquote my least mobile units that I'm going to design this clear around. The other unit that I want to introduce to you turn one is Terry. She just finished off that mage a second ago. She's pretty similar to Yehoshua. You can think of her as the same combat-wise, but instead of a thunder tome, she uses a flame sword, the flamberge. Her staff rank isn't as good, but for this clear, that's not important. She's a pretty good combat unit, and you're going to see that in this upcoming enemy phase. Enemy phase 1, you're going to see Yehoshua just be an absolute monster and kill 3 enemies with his Thunder Tome there. Unfortunately, he's pretty frail, so he also needs to dodge 3 enemies. There is a chance of death this enemy phase and every enemy phase of this clear. I think that's kind of just the nature of this escape map here. But I try to minimize it where I can. Terry, she can one-round a couple of the slower enemies, but she faces some faster units, so she's just going to chip them for a solid chunk to finish them off turn 2. A couple eagle-eyed viewers might have noticed that I actually didn't full deploy this map. I could have deployed up to 12 units, but I only brought 11. And that's kind of part of the nature of escape maps. I tried it out, and just bringing that 12th unit, who's like a 5-move unit, they just slow down everyone and need to be rescued the whole time to keep pace with my units and escape on time. And that was just a lot of wasted effort when I could have just been spending that time rescuing my dancer. We do get a dancer this map, Iblis. He has 6 movement, and he is right now in the saddlebags of the final unit I'm going to introduce, Jerez. He's the rogue. Kind of looks like a promoted Zeke, but he's his own guy. Really high speed, but really low strength and sword rank. I was really begging and pleading over the course of this run to try and make Jerez a good combat unit, and thankfully the devil has answered my prayers because he joins with the devil's sword. The second devil weapon of the game, and for Jerez's purposes, a really good way for him to immediately deal a lot of damage and dig him out of that E-swords that he has at base. Yehoshua hits the first of 2 buttons as we head into turn 2 enemy phase. There is a point of failure here in that Alva needs to crit one of the 3 enemies that are going to attack her. She does have the killer lance we bought last map, so it is pretty likely for her to get one of them. So that's not too bad, but turn 2 and turn 3 are kind of where the most noticeable gap happens between our 6+ move units and our 5 move units. So you might be a little curious why I put my dancer like way at the front of the formation, when it might make more sense to kind of have him hang back in the back line, not only because he's safer, but also because he can bring up these 5 move units so they can contribute to the escape and escape on time. But that's another facet of escape maps. You kind of want 1 or 2 units leading a vanguard, like a turn ahead of everyone else, so you can direct enemy aggro as you see fit. And especially in this clear, we got to hit that second button without losing any turns. And the units that I have chosen to lead this vanguard are Laurencio and Coventry. Laurencio is pretty obvious. He has 7 movement, so it's pretty easy for him to get in the front. But Coventry is a bit of a weirdo choice. It just made the most sense for him to be the most common dance target early on, and he's going to equip an iron spear and chug of pure water. That was the second pure water I had to buy. And the upcoming enemy phase is going to look really shady for Coventry, but he actually has a pretty good chance to survive. 5 enemies are going to attack him, but he only needs to dodge 2. And the highest hit rate he faces is like a 62. So pretty good, all things considered. That iron spear he can use gives him weapon triangle over 3 of the units that are going to attack him, and the other 2 are magical, hence the pure water. We do need Helena to dodge that fighter that's been harassing her on this turn, for a reason I will explain later. But you're going to see the way the enemies shake out as they're attacking Coventry. You can see he can go left or right. Both of the goals are defended by a boss. The bosses are covering the 2 escape points. So maybe I could have split my party, but as you'll see, the right is just going to be totally blocked off. We're going to need to have everyone escape through the left, through that sage boss, because Coventry can clear that spot, but there are going to be 4 enemies, just creating a real nuisance if I try to go right. And that may be a problem if you're worried about that green brigand up in the top right corner, but he's not actually recruitable. He gives you like a skill or something, so I'm not going to worry about talking to him. That's going to cost turns. What's not going to cost turns is heading towards that button there. Coventry and Laurencio, they did live, thankfully, but they're in very rough shape. So it's a good thing I brought Carmela to pick up the final mushroom of the run, the heal shroom. You'll never guess what that does. Just kidding, of course. It's very easy to guess what it does. We're going to have Terry just grab it and chuck it right towards our boys so they're fully healed as they head towards the second button, which is guarded by a silverbow archer. If you're wondering why that sage didn't attack Coventry, that's because he's stationary. He's glued to that pillar for whatever reason, I'm not going to complain about it. We're going to break down this wall, and the reason I need Coventry to hit the button, why I'm bringing him over there, is because the button's going to activate a cutscene, obviously, where Zeke is freed, and you're not going to be able to canto after that cutscene. You can see the button is just far away enough from the escape point that if I just had Laurencio hit it on his own, and he doesn't canto, that's costing a turn. You're going to see I rescued the healer to keep him from costing a turn while heading towards the escape point, but that made Helena a very big target for the enemies. And the only way to prevent them from targeting my vulnerable archer is to drop Yehoshua, who is in range of dying to anything, right there next to her. And so instead of the enemies blocking off my path, Yehoshua is going to kill that cavalier, and that was the shadiest enemy phase of the run. There are like 3 people that have a chance of death here. Yehoshua had the most obnoxious chance of death, which is why I'm mentioning that, but Iblis and Coventry were also not totally in the clear. That said, now the foggiest part of the enemy phase is behind us, and as we hit into turn 5, we're going to hit that button to free Zeke, and we're going to prepare for the boss kill. You can see that our 5-move units have caught up to our 6-move units, because the area near the escape point was just so dense with enemies. The 6-move units couldn't keep charging forward. We need to spend a little time, couple dances, just clearing out this area. Even the stationary sage, who you wouldn't think is a serious threat, I'm just gonna get rid of him. He's annoying. I don't like him. He smells. We hit the second button. We're gonna steal the boss's angelic robe. That's gonna be important way later. But this upcoming enemy phase, we're finally pretty much in the clear. The chance of death of enemy phase 5 is quite low. It's not going to look like it because of how the RNG shook out, but I think Jerez probably has a sub 20 chance of death, and no one else is in danger. We're out of range of that obnoxious fighter finally, and the mage there can't threaten anyone on his own, so it's just dealing with the boss and those 2 stationary armors, but one of them is just gonna nail Jerez with a 1% hit. Thanks, ABT. Yeah. Jerez is attacked 3 times. He needs to dodge 2 attacks. Normally he dodges the 1 and the 16, but I guess he can dodge the 73 instead. Assuming no backfires from the Devil Sword, he's safe. He's going to hit C-rank swords, which is going to let him use some fancy stuff later down the road. And, sometimes you're lucky, and sometimes you're skilled. What can I say? Everyone's in the clear for the escape point. Chapter 4 is cleared in 6 turns. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you for Chapter 5.